Here we are, back in Lost and Found for chapters 13 and 14. Chapter 13, Top Secret. On Monday morning, Ray dragged Jay out of his bed at 7:30, then hurried him along so they could leave together for school 20 minutes early, which Jay didn't like. That meant he had to hide out that much longer in the cardboard igloo in the garage. At least Jay wouldn't have to listen to Ray tell him again how much fun the skating had been, because Jay was fed up with everything that Ray had to say about anything. But Ray didn't care what Jay thought. Ray was a man with a Monday morning mission. He had to find Melissa before homeroom and then try to repair the damage Jay had done during science class on Friday. Ray got to school before the buses. He took a position inside the wide front doors of the school. He had a clear view of the whole unloading area. Spotting Melissa was easy. She came down the steps of bus number 3, a soft blue hat and scarf framing her face. When Ray saw her smile at a friend, he remembered how it felt to have that smile aimed his way. In addition to being pretty, Melissa was apparently popular. The moment she got off the bus, 4 other girls flocked around her, and together the group made their way toward Ray. And as they came through the second set of glass doors, he waited, then made his move, walking so he crossed her path. "Melissa, hi!" Melissa turned her head, saw who it was, smiled slightly, and kept walking. It was not the same kind of smile she'd given Ray on Thursday, and she didn't even say hi. He fell in walking beside her. "Hey, Melissa, can I talk to you a second?" Ray was not at all shy when speaking to a girl, even if other girls were listening, which they were. Melissa kept walking toward the 6th grade hall. "Why?" she asked. "Do you like my shirt?" A couple of the other girls giggled, but the joke was lost on Ray. Jay had not shared the full details of his desperate attempt to chat with this girl on Friday. See the girls giggling in the background? Ray shook his head and said, "No, it's just that it was sort of sad. Except I don't know if you can keep a secret." Ray was using his vast experience with girls because he had discovered that few girls can resist hearing something that might be tragic. Even fewer girls can resist the chance to learn some private information. And combining these elements was a guaranteed girl stopper. And sure enough, Melissa stopped walking, turned to look at Ray with renewed interest. Ray looked at Melissa's friends and then at the floor. Melissa got the message. "Listen, guys," she said, "I'll see you in homeroom, okay?" And the group moved on, whispering to one another and peeking back over their shoulders at Ray. Melissa stood facing Ray next to the lockers just inside the 6th grade hall. Ray could see the questions in their eyes, which were a nice greenish gray color. Now came the tricky part, because Ray had no idea what he was going to say to Melissa. Some quick ideas popped in his head. "I could say I fell on my head Friday morning, and that's why I acted so goofy in science class." Or I could say sometimes I just get flustered when I talk to girls, especially really cute ones. That sounds good. Or I could say my pet hamster died Friday morning and I was a mess all day. But I didn't want anyone to know I was upset, because that might make me seem like I was wimpy or something. And that's something sad plus something secret. But standing there looking at Melissa's face, Ray suddenly felt hopeless. He knew he didn't just want to make up a story. She really did seem like a nice girl, someone he could like a lot. Because if he made up one story, then he'd have to make up another story to cover the first one, then another story and another. Because the truth about him and Jay was going to come out soon, like on Friday. And that was just 4 more days, and deep down, Ray felt pretty sure if he stood there right now and told a long string of lies, he could forget about being friends with Melissa or any of her buddies. So Ray took a deep breath, looked right in the girl's eyes, and said, "That kid you talked to in science on Friday, that was Jay. Jay Grayson." Melissa scrunched her eyebrows together. "Right, Jay, which is you, Jay." Ray shook his head. "I'm Ray, and I met you on Thursday when we got assigned to be lab partners. And Jay he's my twin brother. And the school lost my records. They don't even know there is a Ray Grayson. So Jay and I have been switching off, going to school every other day, and we both use his name, Jay. And so that's the secret part of what I have to tell you. And the sad part is that you had to talk to him on Friday instead of me, because sometimes Jay can be sort of lame." Melissa's face was hard to read. Disbelief, fascination, confusion, but mostly fascination, because the girl had an imagination. She didn't believe what Ray was saying, but she was willing to be convinced. She said, "So, like, one of you stays home every school day?" Ray nodded. Then he explained about using their hideout in the garage. "After my folks leave for work, the guy at home just goes back in the house, grabs some food, watches a movie, sleeps, reads, stay-at-home stuff." Melissa wrinkled her nose. "You're just making this up. I mean, I could tell you the same story that I have a twin sister named Clarissa, and she's the one who thought you were lame on Friday." "Yeah, well, you could say the same thing," Ray said, "but come on, you talked to Jay, right? And now you're talking to me, Ray." He gave her his brightest, most charming smile. "You can tell I'm not the same as him, can't you? Except for the way I look, I mean." Melissa looked into Ray's face, saw his quiet, confident smile, saw him meet her questioning gaze without a trace of anxiety. And Ray could see the change in her eyes because she could tell. She knew he wasn't Jay at all. Almost whispering, she said, "So you really are twins. And the other one, Jay, he's at home, right? Hiding out? That is so cool." Ray nodded. "Yeah, I know. Except you have to keep this a total secret, okay? I mean, like, completely. We're not telling the school about it till Friday, and we're going to get in some really big trouble about this. But we had to try it out to see what it would be like to be on our own instead of always being twins. We had to." As Ray talked, the look on Melissa's face kept changing because now she was also worried for him about the trouble. There was also a trace of admiration because the danger made Ray seem like sort of an outlaw, a rebel, a risk taker. And that much of an adventure was irresistible. Ray saw all this in her face, and it brought out the actor in him. With a faraway look in his eyes, he said, "Yeah, we're making every day count because the hammer's going to come down on us pretty hard." Melissa's eyes were wide. "You better be careful," she whispered. Ray paused dramatically, searching her eyes, and he said, "But I can trust you, right?" She nodded. Yes, you can." "Good," Ray said. "Listen, I'll see you in science, okay? Maybe at lunchtime, too." She nodded. "At lunchtime, too." "Good. See you later, Melissa." "See you, Jay," and gave Ray one of her $1,000,000 smiles. Walking towards his own homeroom, Ray felt like he was the king of Ohio. At the start of math class 15 minutes later, Ray spotted the girl Jay had told him about. And during attendance, he learned her name, Julie Parkman. Ray didn't think she was anywhere near as cute as Melissa, but he smiled at her anyway, and he got a chance to talk to her after class. And Ray was friendly with her, not like he would have been, of course. He was friendly with Julie in a Jayish sort of way, a little stiff, sort of reserved, kind of unsure of himself, because Ray didn't want to spoil things for Jay by having this girl think Jay was going to be like him, because that wasn't going to happen. And as Ray said, "We'll see you later," to Julie, he wasn't worried about Melissa finding out he'd been talking to some other girl, not at all, because now he could explain he talked to her just to be nice to his brother, which was true. As Ray headed down the hall to the music room, he felt like the king of Ohio, plus he felt like he could have won the Boston Marathon, and then climbed Mount Everest. Ray sang his heart out during music class, and when Mr. Parnell asked for volunteers to join the 6th grade chorus, Ray was the first boy to raise his hand. He felt like he could have stood up and sung a solo right then and there. In fact, Ray's whole day was great, especially the quiet talk he had with Melissa next to the Foursquare courts during lunch recess, and the double especially time he spent sitting next to her during science. And even during soccer practice after school, Ray felt terrific. He did his best to pretend that soccer wasn't just a lot of semi-pointless running around on a big field. He ran hard and tried to look like he knew what he was doing. He even scraped up his knee as he made a sliding tackle during scrimmage and didn't complain about it to anyone. And Ray did all the extra hard work at soccer practice for Jay's sake, out of gratitude. Because if Jay hadn't been a complete doofus with Melissa on Friday, then Ray wouldn't have had to tell her the truth on Monday morning. And telling her the truth had made Ray feel so good. It made Melissa feel good, too, to be trusted like that. And even though Melissa was just one person out of so many others at the school, with her knowing his secret, Ray felt much more like himself all day long, even when kids called him Jay. Because Melissa Rollins knew who he was. She knew it. And she definitely liked him. Him, Ray Grayson. Chapter 14, Not So Secret. By lunchtime on Monday, Melissa was having trouble. And the trouble was this secret she knew. Because Jay wasn't Jay at all. Not today. He was Jay's twin brother, Ray. And actually, Ray was the boy she'd started to get a crush on back on Thursday. Because that day, Jay had been really Ray. So there wasn't just one new cute boy at Taft Elementary. There were two. And they were exactly alike. And to be the only other person in the whole school who knew about this, it was like no secret Melissa had ever known before. And she was dying to tell someone, anyone. Except she had promised Ray she'd keep the secret, and she really wanted to. She did, really. But for Melissa, this secret was like that $20 bill her aunt had given her for her birthday. She knew she should have taken that money and tucked it away somewhere safe, like the bank, but instead she took it somewhere else, like to the mall. And today, right now, the school cafeteria was like the mall. It was the perfect place to spend a secret. So Melissa began shopping for ears. Ears that belonged to someone she could trust, someone who wasn't a blabbermouth. And she dropped off her tray after eating. Melissa looked around, waved to her friend Caroline, and motioned she should come over. Quick! And standing against the wall under the food group poster, the two girls shared 45 seconds of furious whispering and nodding. And when it was over, Caroline's mouth was hanging wide open because she was in on the secret. She knew that Jay had an identical twin brother named Ray who was coming to school every other day, and that these two adorably cute brothers had all the teachers duped into thinking they were the same kid. And of course, the last thing Melissa said was, "You have to promise me you won't tell anybody, okay? Like nobody. Promise?" And Caroline promised to keep the secret. Outside on the playground 5 minutes later, Caroline saw Ray and Melissa talking next to the Foursquare courts, saw them nodding and smiling at each other, and it seemed so romantic, almost dangerous, because that boy was sort of like a spy or a secret agent. And suddenly, Caroline wished she could tell her best friend Brianna about this. And that's when Caroline decided that even though she had promised Melissa to keep the Ray and Jay thing secret, that didn't mean she couldn't tell Brianna, because Caroline knew she could trust Brianna. So on the way to their lockers after recess, Brianna heard the whole story. "He's a twin?" Brianna gasped. "The new kid in my math class? And the twin told Melissa because he likes her? That's so sweet, don't you think? And don't worry, I won't tell anyone, really, I promise." And Brianna didn't tell a single soul for a whole 7 minutes. And as Brianna whispered to her friend Lori what Caroline had told her, what Melissa had said about the boy named Ray had told her, did Brianna think she wasn't keeping Caroline's secret? Not at all, because Brianna knew that Lori was a girl who knew how to keep her mouth shut. And all during science classes, Melissa and the boy known as Jay sat at the same lab table. Brianna and Lori kept a close eye on them. And whenever the boy and Melissa would whisper at each other, Brianna and Lori would look at each other with a wink or a nod or a smile. Because that boy at table 9 was not who he appeared to be. The secret news about the Grayson twins was shared 3 or 4 more times on Monday afternoon. And after school, as bus number 4 rumbled out of the parking lot, a girl named Jenny whispered to her best friend Leanne, "If you promise to keep this a secret, I know something about that new kid in our social studies class, the boy named Jay." Leanne nodded and whispered back, "You mean how he's a twin and how he and his brother have been tricking the whole school? I heard about it from Carrie during gym. Isn't it amazing?" And just then, Jenny grabbed Leanne's shoulder, pointed out the window to a boy walking along the sidewalk on Baker Street. "Ooh, look, right there, that's him, that's the boy." And Leanne jumped to her feet and yelled out the bus window, "Hi, Jay!" The boy jerked his head toward the bus with a startled look, then smiled and waved. Both girls collapsed on the seat in a fit of giggles. And as Jenny looked back over her shoulder, she whispered, "Is that really Jay, or is it like the other one?" Leanne shrugged. "That's the thing. There's no way to tell." And the girls kept on giggling. So up until this point, nobody but Ray and Jay knew the secret. Then Ray told Melissa. And boy, that news traveled really, really fast. If you want to keep something secret, you probably shouldn't tell anybody else. All right, we'll be back next time.